Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Today I'm going to talk about Walmart, a stable, consistent consumer distribution market heavyweight. And our recommendation for this is going to be a buy with a target share price of $63.57, about 58, our current market price per share that we demonstrated with a 58.52 with an 8.62% increase. All right, and just for a brief company analysis, Walmart operates within the consumer staple distribution market. About 56 of their products are just staple grocery-based supplies, with about 26% within the healthcare-related products, whether that be toothpaste and such, and the remaining 10% within their automotive sector. So that will be anything from just tire changes and such. Regarding their recent increase, Walmart had an increase of about 24% in their e-commerce sales. Walmart comp sales led the sector with a 4.9% growth rate. On the next. Just for a brief business description, of course, they do operate within that consumer staple distribution market. Of course, additionally, they have started to work more towards their e-commerce sales becoming a much more priority-based figure within a lot of their revenue sources. They've moved much more towards that contactless model with their Drive Up and Go options in-store and prevent that in-store shopping, and also this has led to that increase of revenue within that market, of course. Regarding that business model, they do focus primarily within the brick-and-mortar-based stores. However, we have seen this move more towards Walmart, especially in their international and their e-commerce market, where they invite local producers to participate in their market and also on their platform. They've started to design this primarily towards that contactless shopping-based model. Regarding that competitive landscape, we do see other heavyweights within the sector, such as Kroger and subsidiaries, Albertsons and subsidiaries, and Walgreens and other staples. They did lead this quarter with 27 new stores overall. They have seen significant international growth as well, with new stores within Mexico and in other abroad. And other competitors within the landscape, regarding their subsidiary of Sam's Club, they are facing some competition, especially from Costco, which has been within that sector of the membership-only based stable consumer distribution market for a longer period of time as well. Now, regarding their ESG scoring, they have maintained a C+ rating overall for the 2022 fiscal year, and we have seen that carry over into their fiscal year for 2023. This is derived from their 23.6%, 47%, and 29.5% scores based on their environmental, social, and governmental pillar scores equally. They are weighted down however, due to that negative or the D- in their social rating. Now, for their environmental progress, they have worked to reduce overall fleet emissions ahead of governmental regulations, which has seen an improvement, especially in an A in their environmental ESG rating. However, this is still taking some time, so it's going to be some time for them to accurately be able to display all that data as necessary. They've worked towards creating these equitable relationships with local communities, especially with that new e-commerce platform, inviting local communities and possibly reach a larger market as a whole, and we start to see this, especially in those revenue increases as of late for the comp sales. Involving their governmental involvement, they do their primary reaction, and they're working much more internally and to deal with those internal situations, such as that fleet distribution, but they are moving towards the external, trying to get ahead, especially in their social pillar as of right now. Now, regarding their corporate governance, they consist of various different members, but for the vast majority of the list, they have a very diverse corporate board of directors. This indicates that Walmart is open to diverse ideas, and they're not keeping themselves locked in with just Walmart-owning executives leading the pack, typically. Moving into the investment summary, we believe it's undervalued by the market, primarily due to their ability to provide a strong response to evolving environments. We saw this especially during COVID-19, where they were able to easily adapt and move into a contactless market, essentially, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. They recently did conduct that stock split 3-for-1, creating that abundance of shares, which did lead to that market perception that it's cheaper to get in. This definitely drove up that rally that we saw for from the 58.52 originally at the opening to that $60 that it ended on that day. So much more participation for the stock. We did show that the sales and rising net income year over year has contributed, of course, for that buy option. We used this from the effective tax rate about 30%, and we used also from our calculations, we saw that their profit margin would remain steady at around 4% as well. We do expect their interest burden to increase over time, but this is to be expected, especially with an e-commerce platform being developed to cater essentially to that consumer staples, whether it be grocery and the such, especially with automotive. But we do expect to see the sustainable growth rates increase over time. From our, of course, for our price per share of 58.52 when we saw it enter, just for a contextualization, before the stock split happened, we did see the model value per share was about 197.02. So it was definitely within that buy position where it's originally 176. So we definitely were expecting that it would grow over time. So with the stock split and still being able to grow, it's definitely in a great position. Of course, with the beta of 0.66, it's definitely not close to that beta of 1, but it's still stable enough that it's not going to be as risky as others. So we expect it to stay relatively the same, may increase over to about 0.8 over time, especially when developing a new platform. And there's a level of risk that can occur, especially with the equity risk premium, about 5.5%. Okay, and just for a quick analysis, of course, for the risk, one major risk is that if any economic downturn were to occur, especially in a period of growth, they do face this threat that it might cause some issues and maybe it'll stall their growth. Another is that, of course, within the e-commerce market for that staple distribution, it's fairly new, and with now local farmers and a lot of different local supermarkets coming in to participate on each different platform, whether it be from Costco, whether it be from Kroger subsidiaries or Albertsons subsidiaries, it definitely leaves a lot of potential for growth, but a lot of risk can be taken on from that as well. All right. And thank you very much.
Hi, nice job. Just on ESG governance in particular, the large percentage of the stock that the Waltons themselves own, does that present a headwind for them in terms of ESG?
Yes, it does. Particularly, of course, with the Waltons still owning, they own over 40% of the shares, does definitely pose a challenge, especially for their governance scores, because it has been lower. It definitely creates a level, since on the board of directors are still Waltons present, it definitely creates, it's definitely lowering their ESG significantly because of that. Hence why we saw that D- score did occur also for the governance. So,
any suggestions on?
One major suggestion I would definitely say is that there should definitely be no Waltons at least present on those compensation or payroll boards, especially, or any of that decision-making process, because with Waltons, so that they can still very much influence how much is actually being distributed out to the family still, which if that did change, we could definitely see that increase their score significantly compared to something like Costco. Yeah.
I had a follow-up question on that. Which provider did you use to get the ESG data, or was that your own analysis?
We used it through Refinitiv,
Okay.
so Refinitiv online workspace that was provided for the competition.
And in terms of the scoring of the E, S, and G, was that a Refinitiv score, or was that at your discretion?
It was the Refinitiv score,
okay.
So it was the C+ for them.
Thank you.
Can I ask, you talked about some of the e-commerce initiatives. What sort of spending or investments are they undergoing to kind of help support those efforts?
Could you repeat that? So sorry?
Just what is Walmart doing to help augment their existing retail base and really focusing towards the e-commerce? Are they spending, is it ChatGPT or AI or data center initiatives? Sort of, how are they really undergoing that transformation towards an e-commerce company?
Yeah. So from the news data, we were able to see that they were building data centers essentially to support the growth, of course, and building new apologies. They were building new tools, especially some of the AI tools built in, working with Microsoft as well to build those tools towards the shopping. And that's what we noticed.
I'd just like to say, I think it's great that you're doing this all by yourself. I think that it's not on our official scorecard, but I'd give that an A+. I just had a quick question on kind of the financial analysis and kind of a two-part question on your price target. What was your WACC and your assumed terminal growth rate, if you had that? I think you had maybe I missed it.
Yes. So the WACC was at 7%. Looks like it broke down, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was at that 7%.
And then your terminal growth rate was?
Terminal growth rate. It should be at 4%.
Okay. And your primary valuation was a DCF to get to your price target?
Yes.
Okay. And then my other question would be, I know you have some supplements here, but what are your assumptions on margin expansion? I saw your COGS was flat, it looked like, but your gross margin.
I wasn't able to extrapolate that data for margins. I didn't include that in my data, unfortunately.
So sort of operating margins, are you assuming operating margin expansion through the next several years or not?
No, we weren't. We just kept that flat rate with that assumption that COGS would at that higher rate. We assumed that for a worst case scenario, essentially, of this is the highest COGS that we could take on, the average. We're going to use that data moving forward.
Okay. So flat margins.
Yeah, flat margins.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I guess if we think about growth for the company, how do you think Walmart will grow relative to the industry?
From our analysis, we believe that Walmart was going to be able to grow. Probably it will start off slowly because, of course, with the emergence of these e-commerce platforms really driving a lot of that competition, it's going to be hard to determine who kind of comes out on top, especially we saw this with Amazon and eBay. Amazon has really come out as that top competitor where you go to just get it really quickly. So with this open development, it's going to be really hard for them to determine who's going to come out on top, but it's going to be a slow, our anticipation is a slow growth with over long term, they will start to grow exponentially over time.
Any comments on their inventory management? That's something they've emphasized in the past.
Yeah, I would definitely say they've done a pretty fantastic job for their inventory management, especially developing new technologies to take on, especially including AI with their new inventory management systems as robots to kind of ease that flow of inventory, especially with that fleet regulation that does slow down essentially how much they can and cannot do. But they have done a fairly decent job at keeping their both lowering the cost, but also increasing how much they can fit for each space, of course.
So in terms of contribution to their financial results, do you see anything material there?
We do see with increased costs, starting to have an increased cost over time, but that's to be expected as they're taking on that new technology, those robots that come in and are using that for those mobile warehouses, essentially behind stores that they're developing. But of course, with that will increase cost over time, but it will start to stabilize when it becomes a standardized norm, and they expect that cost.
What do you think the number one driver of the stock price would be over the next 5 years?
Now, I would definitely say the number one driver would have to be their ability to react to the market, essentially, especially with e-commerce, as it's still developing. It's going to take them a lot of time to either be able to react effectively and either outpace their competition or be able to react in an equitable manner, especially for those local producers, because all it takes is local producers, if they are going to include them, to go to somewhere else to then drive those sales away. So their ability to raise that share price is going to be definitely down to how well they're able to effectively respond to the market.
So you think it's e-commerce
I'd definitely say it would be the e-commerce. That's going to be a bigger driving factor as we've seen more and more people move towards that contactless method, especially with the Walmart Plus, where people are opting for deliveries at home instead of going to the grocery store.
Again, on the ESG side, Walmart is something of a lightning rod for all sorts of shareholder efforts and that. How do you see them managing that?
Yeah. One thing we did notice, especially with how they're managing it, is that they're moving it each block at a time, especially where they start with the environment part of the ESG, where they're really focusing on limiting those fleet emissions and trying to lower one thing at a time. We do see this also where they've started to move more towards that social, because that part of the ESG, they could cover both environment and government by keeping ahead of regulations. By moving towards that social, and now they're focusing more on those local producers to include and also work on that over time.
How important is the ESG component to you when thinking about your recommendation and price target? How did you kind of interplay that with other components of your analysis?
I would say it's very important because it, especially with that environmental aspect, that contributed to both how they respond to the governmental aspect, which does include the governance, of course, the country. So it's easy to see how they're going to react and both how much money they're willing to put in, which is also another thing to keep in mind, especially how much are they going to work to reduce emissions and how much that cost is going to be incurred, and the public perception that can be incurred from that. Of course, when you do a stock split, what does that occur on the social end? So it's definitely a very big part of especially the qualitative process, to understand how much that was going to impact.
Biggest competitor, who do you see them going head-to-head with and as their biggest issue, biggest challenge?
Yeah, the current biggest competitors that we saw recently would definitely have to be Kroger and Albertsons, because they recently almost underwent, of course, their merger deal. However, that was canceled, but those two competitors definitely have plenty of subsidiaries such as Safeway and others underneath their branches such as King Soopers that can influence essentially that market share and who has access to which market, and that's going to be amongst their two biggest competitors of how to combat that, especially considering something like Walgreens is going to be much more focused on those pharmaceutical or healthcare-related products, not so much on the grocery end. Then that grocery is making up that 56% for Walmart of their total sales.
What do you think about including Amazon as one of their competitors, especially with the...
Thank you very much.